On a pivotal morning in Washington, anticipation builds outside the White House. Reporters crowd the driveway, cameras poised, as the world's attention turns to a meeting that could alter the course of Middle Eastern diplomacy. US President Donald Trump prepares to welcome Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and at the heart of the day's agenda lies one of the most intractable challenges in modern history: the future of Gaza. For decades, the narrow coastal enclave has been synonymous with conflict and despair. Wars and blockades have left infrastructure in ruins, stifled economic growth, and locked its people in a cycle of poverty and uncertainty. Generations have known little more than sporadic violence and intermittent peace talks that raised hopes only to let them collapse. It is against this backdrop that today's meeting takes on such gravity. As Trump steps out of the White House and approaches the waiting press, the scene is charged with expectation. Flashes of cameras punctuate the hum of anticipation. A reporter's voice cuts through the noise, asking the question on many minds: Mr. President, are you confident there'll be peace in Gaza anytime soon? Trump turns slightly toward the reporter, his expression measured yet resolute. I am very confident, he replies. 4 words, brief but weighted, that instantly ripple across newsrooms worldwide. For a conflict long defined by mistrust, stalemate, and fragile ceasefires, such a declaration from a US president is nothing short of striking. The optimism in Trump's remark raises immediate questions. What lies behind this confidence? Is there a concrete proposal, or is it a calculated signal to build momentum before substantive talks begin? For the people of Gaza, the promise of peace is not an abstraction. It is tied to the hope of open borders, regular electricity, access to education and healthcare, and above all, security for families who have lived for years under the shadow of conflict. Prime Minister Netanyahu's arrival underscores the delicate balance of expectations. His government's policies toward Gaza have often been uncompromising, focused on security concerns and the containment of militant groups. Any meaningful shift in his stance would mark a significant moment in Israeli politics and potentially open a window for negotiation. The handshake on the White House steps, a familiar diplomatic ritual, is laden today with symbolism. To understand the stakes, one must recall the long and often bitter history of attempts to broker peace. From the Oslo Accords of the 1990s to the Camp David Summit of 2000 and the many US-led initiatives since, progress has repeatedly faltered. Ceasefires have been declared and then shattered. Agreements have been drafted but rarely implemented. Each failure has deepened public skepticism in both Israeli and Palestinian societies. This legacy makes Trump's confident tone appear both ambitious and, to some observers, audacious. For the administration in Washington, projecting confidence serves a purpose. It signals to regional allies and domestic audiences alike that the US is committed to trying once again where others have failed. For critics, however, optimism without a clear, realistic framework risks raising expectations that may once again be dashed. Beyond political maneuvering, the humanitarian dimension looms large. In Gaza, unemployment is high and access to basic services is limited. Years of restrictions have stifled trade and left young people with few opportunities. A credible peace agreement could mean more than the end of hostilities. It could open the way to rebuilding infrastructure, reviving the economy, and giving a generation the chance of a normal life. In Washington's policy circles, experts urge caution. They note that confidence must be paired with concrete steps, credible security arrangements for Israel, assurances that Gaza will not be used as a base for attacks, and a sustained commitment from all parties to honor any agreements reached. Without such elements, they warn, today's hopeful images risk becoming just another chapter in a long history of disappointments. Inside the White House, Trump and Netanyahu hold their private talks. Few details emerge at first, but speculation runs high about what a new Gaza plan might entail. Some insiders hint at phased demilitarization combined with international investment for reconstruction. Others suggest broader regional involvement, perhaps drawing on Arab neighbors to support both security and development. Meanwhile, the scene outside remains emblematic of diplomacy in the spotlight. journalists huddled near the West Wing, correspondents broadcasting live, commentators passing every phrase. In television studios across the world, analysts debate the implications of Trump's words. For some, very confident is a deliberate strategy to project leadership and create a sense of momentum. For others, it is premature, given the deep-seated mistrust on all sides. For ordinary families in Gaza, however, the geopolitical chessboard feels distant. What they seek is straightforward: an end to the blockade, access to reliable power and clean water, the reopening of schools and hospitals, the chance to live without fear of sudden conflict. Their hopes lend an urgency to what might otherwise seem like just another diplomatic headline. As the day progresses, international reactions begin to stream in. European leaders cautiously welcome the renewed focus on peace, but stress the need for concrete steps. Regional partners urge restraint and dialogue. Human rights organizations remind the world that sustainable peace cannot come without addressing the humanitarian crisis on the ground. By the afternoon, the image of Trump's brief but decisive answer has become the defining moment of the day's coverage. His confident words are replayed across news channels, dissected in op-eds, and shared widely on social media. Supporters hail them as evidence of a president willing to confront difficult challenges. Skeptics dismiss them as rhetoric unsupported by details. Yet in conflicts defined by long-standing grievances, even small shifts in tone can matter. The symbolism of two leaders meeting at the White House, the hint of new ideas under discussion, and the sense, however tentative, that momentum may be building, all contribute to a renewed, if cautious, optimism. As evening falls over Washington and lights glow across the White House facade, the cameras capture a final wide shot. Flags stirring in the breeze, reporters packing up their gear, and officials departing after a day heavy with expectation. Far away in Gaza, night settles over crowded streets and quiet homes. For those who have endured years of conflict, the news of possible progress brings both hope and apprehension. History shows that breakthroughs in the Middle East seldom come quickly or easily, but every attempt begins with words, sometimes just a sentence, sometimes as brief as 4 words. I am very confident. Whether this statement proves to be the prelude to genuine progress or fades into the long record of unfulfilled promises remains to be seen. Yet on this day in Washington, those words resonated, signaling at least the possibility that the search for peace in Gaza may be entering a new chapter.
President Trump, are you confident, sir, there'll be peace in Gaza anytime soon? And the 21-point plan, is everyone on board?